Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and good afternoon again. How is everyone enjoying the conference so far? By a round of applause. My name is Dr. Tanja Connerly, and I'm a member of the 2024 Open Education Conference Board. But today, I am standing here as a very important role as serving as the president-elect of our keynote speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Richard Baraniuk. Before he comes to the podium, I am going to give you a little introduction about him. He is a pioneer in open education. He is a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Rice University and the founder and director of OpenStack. He launched Connections in 1999 as a platform for open knowledge sharing, which evolved into OpenStack, which was established in 2012. Just a little keynote on the side. If I sound a little bit enthusiastic, it's because I really am truly a fan of all of his work. I had the opportunity of piloting Intro to Sociology in 2012, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work with OpenStack ever since. Know that OpenStack is the world's largest OER publisher with more than 70 digital textbooks used by 7 million college and high school students just this year alone. He's also led Safe Insights, the U.S. National Science Foundation National Infrastructure for Education Research. Baraniuk has been active in AI theory long before it had been established that you know about it, I should say, that you know about it currently. So it's been established a long time. This is nothing new to him. He's also a member of the U.S. National Academy of Engineering and the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and a fellow of the U.S. National Academy of Investors. He has received numerous research and education awards, including the IE3 James H. Milligan Jr. Education Medal and the Harold W. McGraw Jr. Prize in Education. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce to you Dr. Richard Baraniuk.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay, it's great to be here amongst friends, many of my favorite people, and I think we're gonna try to have an interesting time this afternoon. Thanks so much for the introduction. Thanks so much for the invitation. We're going to talk a little bit about something that I think is front of mind for many people here. We're going to talk about AI. Are people ready to talk about AI? Okay, so we're just going to get the slides up. So this is an area of tremendous interest, tremendous divisiveness, plenty of optimism, plenty of pessimism, and we're going to talk hopefully about a lot of these ideas today. Okay, everybody ready? It's going to be a wild ride. Hopefully you do not get sick to your stomach. Okay, so let's go. What's the point of today's talk? The point is that we really are. I just love the tagline of this meeting. This really is a time to reflect on some really urgent things that we need to attend to as a community, and some ways that we not only could, but really should act. Okay, so hopefully by the end of the talk, this will be clear. What I'd like to really focus on in this talk is the convergence of three big factors, right? Not just AI, but about the fact that students are changing in a very substantive way, and the fact that our job is not complete in really spreading education, not just in the global north, but throughout the entire world. Okay, so these are the three forces that I want to talk about today. I'm going to wear different hats, right? I wear different hats in my life, so I'm going to bring these different viewpoints to the talk today, hopefully to be able to elaborate in some different directions. So some non-goals of the talk are to authoritatively answer some of these extremely pressing questions, extremely difficult and complicated questions that we're going to talk about. Okay, so this is really a time for dialogue, not for like answers. Second, there's no time in 45 minutes to go into really any depth about anything. So it's going to be super high level, even on really, really complicated and nuanced issues, but hopefully we can talk after, and not just for 10 minutes after, but in weeks and months and after this discussion. So let's go back in time. My personal story in open educational resources. I'm a professor at Rice. I'm an electrical and computer engineering professor. I was teaching a course in 1999. I had a lot more hair then. I was teaching a junior level course, an absolutely core course in ECE, and this is what I saw, right? And it just pained me. It pained me. And I was just very lucky that I was at Rice. Very small school. It was a big class. I had 25 students. And so I could force these students to come to office hours, and I did psychoanalysis. And what I realized is that there's just a disconnection between their interests, their context, their goals, and what was in the course. It was disconnected. Once I could connect those, right, many of these students went from a C student to an A student, right? So I thought, okay, wait a minute. How do I scale this up? Right? How do I scale it up from my 25 students to 25,000 students? How can I do this? So what would you do back in 1999? What would you do? You'd write a book, right? You'd write a book. So I went out and looked at the other books in signal processing. Very disheartening. Okay, you talk about commoditization. Every book has a mountain on the cover. I am not joking. This is not made up. Okay, so what's the point in writing another book? Right? And for that matter, what is a linearized version, single opinion version of a book really going to help when my students have all of these different contexts and interests? It's not going to work. So the idea at the time, as I was actually converting all of my group to open source software, Linux, at the time, and started to learn about like the ethos behind Linux, was pretty simple, right? Can we somehow tear out the pages of a book? Liberate them? Would seem like chaos. Back then it seemed like chaos. But of course we could encapsulate them, right, as web pages, HTML, XML, right, Lego blocks. And then you could build learning machines out of these, right? So that was idea number one. Idea number two is, well, let's open license these. Let's have a community develop them because we need multiple different viewpoints in order to reach all of these different kinds of students. And of course, to really further try to remove friction from this whole process, let's make everything free. Okay, so if that was phase one, let's figure out how to change the book. Phase two, which we're going to come back to later, was now let's use these Lego blocks, right? These new ways to think about learning to like construct different experiences for every student. That was really my dream back in '99. Every kid should have their own book because that's what it took, right, to turn my struggling students into really great students. This got stuck. We'll talk about this in a second. Of course, we started a project, we call it Connections. There was a burbling ferment of projects at the time. Wikipedia came along, MIT OpenCourseWare came along, the name OER came along, right, in 2002. And the field has only grown since then. So let's fast forward about 10 years. When we realized, remember I mentioned about things getting a little bit stuck? What we realized is that our particular vision for how to do open education was like way on the bleeding edge, right? If you think of like the market, the bell curve describing the market. And really we were on this enthusiast visionary side, right? Trying to convince authors to write like XML, right? Triangle brackets. And many of them did, right? Many of them did, but it was really, it was difficult to scale. And so the idea that we had in 2012 was to move to something that is much more comfortable to instructors, not individual little learning objects, not Lego blocks, not customization, but just can we build a really high quality textbook, right? And then hide all of that. Hide all that complexity under the hood, right? But keep it there so it's a Trojan horse, right? Which has by and large worked, because if you think about each and every one of our OpenStax books, there are many, many derivative versions of these books, right? Which we're like extremely proud of. Okay, so now let's fast forward another roughly decade. I would say, how about a round of applause for anybody who does open education? Round of applause. Okay, right? That's why we're here. Like, we've made tremendous progress. I think you would agree we've made tremendous progress. There is just a ton of really high quality OER. We've also, as a movement, it's a movement now, and we've started ideas like open pedagogy that didn't exist at way back when. But I don't think anybody in this room would say, like, we're done. Would anybody say we're done? Right? Okay, we're not done. There's just so much more that we need, right? We need more, right? And in particular, we need new kinds of content, right? But we also need content that's going to reach really, truly all around the globe, okay? And so our job is really anything but finished. And I would argue our job's not done, but we're at a really interesting kind of pivotal time, right? As, again, these different forces that I talked about earlier are all coming together. And I don't know if any of you are getting messages like these. Well, I'd like to suggest someone who might be helpful to our OER team. They're like really knowledgeable, Gene. They know ecology, but connections to far-flung areas. They can bring in ideas from chemistry and math. That really excites students. They know quite a bit about pedagogy, right? They took a static textbook that students didn't like, and they turned it into active learning modules. Students loved them. Wow, this is an interesting person. They know 400 languages. Crazy. And maybe we can kick off that Spanish language translation project, right? It's been sitting on the shelf like for 2 years, right? And they're also good at localizing. They kind of know the difference between, let's say, what works in Chile maybe versus works in Mexico, right? And they're fast. Wow. Not years, 15 seconds, and they do a task. It's just crazy, right? Now, they are a bit set in their ways, right? And they do make mistakes, right? Okay? But maybe if we check their work over first, maybe it could be useful, right? So what do you think? I don't know how many people have got messages like these. Okay? Very quiet room. Of course, I deserve a penalty. We're in the Northeast, right? For flagrancy, okay? I'm not trying to anthropomorphize like AI here, right? But I just wanted to give you kind of a thought experiment to think about the really interesting capabilities, right, of AI that have just emerged over the last couple years, right? So we are truly in a moment, right, where this genie, right, whether it's a genie to you that's popped out of a bottle or a Pandora's box that's been opened, right? This has happened, right? And it started about really in the mainstream about 2 years ago, okay? About 2 years ago. So let's just talk a little bit about this thing called AI. How many people here feel really comfortable about how AI works? Okay, well, we're going to talk just a little bit about how it works because that might be useful, okay? But it's also going to be really useful for later on in the talk. Okay, so let's talk about artificial intelligence systems. Are artificial intelligence systems intelligent? Probably not. What does the intelligence even mean? Again, super complicated question, okay? But they're systems, right? And they're a box, right? And they take inputs and they create from those inputs outputs. And it turns out there's all kinds of different AI systems, okay? Including decision-making systems, the top example, right? Put in a picture, what comes out? Oh, that is a picture of a cat, right? Okay? But nobody really, the mainstream media doesn't talk about these anymore. Everybody talks about generative AI. What is generative AI? It's a box, right? It's a box that when you put in a prompt, let's say some text, draw me a cat, and what comes out? A cat. How many people have played around with these? Everybody's played around. You might not even know you've played around, okay? But you use Google Docs, okay, and you were, okay? So generative AI. So, of course, it can do all kinds of stuff, right? Not just create images, but for this talk, we're going to think about AI models that create text, right? For example, go to ChatGPT, one of the top models, and it will write you a haiku about a cat, right? Not just create a picture. Okay, so let's dig a little bit into what is inside this box of AI. So what is it? These are called deep neural networks. How many people have heard that term? Might have heard that. Okay, what is a deep neural network? It is a box, okay, that takes an input, creates an output, and it's got knobs. Okay, lots of knobs. As you change the knobs, keep the input the same, change the knobs, the output will change. Make sense? Okay, so they affect this input-output mapping, if you will, of the network. Okay? Amazingly, all of this crazy stuff that we're so either enthusiastic about or scared, super scared about, is all comes from just the same basic exercise, and it's called next word prediction. It's like a game. Okay, this box is playing a game. You put in a string of words, the students opened there, and the job of the box is to create the next word. Fill in the blank. Is this an easy game? Totally easy game. Okay, so that's the whole point of these methods. Okay, it's called next word prediction. And of course, these networks, they're actually probabilistic. There's randomness in them. So they're not just going to necessarily produce one output. They could produce a bunch of outputs. And some of them are going to be good. Yeah, students opened their minds. Wow, that's really clever, right? That's also correct. But then the students opened their, expect. No, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so there's going to be correct outputs, and there's going to be incorrect outputs. And the key thing is, this is where the knobs come in. Because what we can do is we can feed back all the correct answers and say, good job. Don't change the knobs. Did a good job. Okay? But then we can feed back all the mistakes, like expect, and say, tweak the knobs a little bit, okay, in order to produce this word expect less often and books, laptops, minds more often. Does it make sense? And in fact, if you know calculus, it's just calculus. Simple, simple calculus. Okay, derivative. You take the derivative, right, of these outputs, if you will, with respect to the knobs. Okay, it's really, really actually simple. Okay, so the next thing that you do is you don't just do this once with this one phrase. You do this with a whole bunch of phrases. You go get a library of, let's say, books or documents. Okay, let's think about a shelf of books in your library. And you take every one of those books and you just scan through those books, creating what? Phrases that you can then complete. Right? Any given book has a lot of these phrases. Right? Make sense? And you do it for a whole bunch of books. Okay? At the end, after you've done this, gone through all these books, done this next word prediction, when you're correct, left the knobs alone. When you're wrong, tweak them so that you're less likely to make that mistake next time, you're done, and you've learned your particular model. Is this easy? Seems easy. It is really easy. Okay? So nothing much happens, right, when you have 100 knobs. Okay? But when it gets interesting, okay, is when you have a zillion knobs, okay? And really a zillion, okay? You can read how many is a zillion. And you have, the more knobs you have, the more documents you need, the more words you need, the more phrases you need to complete, okay? But if you've got a zillion of those, trillions literally, and you do this training process that takes months, okay? Magical, weird things happen, okay? Emergent things happen that were a complete surprise. Nobody at OpenAI thought that GPT 2 and 3 would work like they worked. Everybody figured that we were about 20 years from where we are now. Okay, so just kind of crazy, right? So this is very easy now to just say I want a nice little poem about Lisa, And there we get a nice little poem about Lisa. This won the Nobel Prize yesterday. Who saw that? Okay. This is great. Like, this is a big deal, right? This is a big deal in the scientific world and also the technology world and also the business world, right? So there's just a tremendous, we know we're all caught up in this technological imperative, right, of building bigger and bigger models, pushing them out to training them on bigger and bigger sets of data in order to do what? Make certain companies more and more money, right? Okay, so this is just the world that we live in right now, okay? But there are real opportunities, right, with these models, and I just have to say I'm flabbergasted, everybody's flabbergasted, the fact that next word prediction, how easy is that, could actually create a system that can allow like kind of amazing knowledge integration possibilities, like connecting far-flung ideas between chemistry, say, mathematics, and ecology in the kind of way that, you know, maybe there's a handful of people in the world who could do this, right? So just kind of really interesting knowledge integration capabilities, and the idea of, you know, towards personalization, right? We're actually on the cusp of hopefully being able to personalize learning experiences for individual students. This isn't a demo, but how many people know about Notebook LM? Okay, it's kind of crazy. Should try it. Load in a textbook, load in a chapter of a textbook, say, give me a podcast. Who's tried it? It's like not bad. It's kind of just extraordinary how fast things are moving in this space. Okay, but don't get me wrong. I'm not like some techno enthusiast up here trying to sell you on all this stuff. There's tremendous issues, right, around all of these ideas, and we're going to touch on a number of these through the talk. Okay, tremendous issues. So this is very divisive. Show of hands, how many people here are enthusiastic about AI? Okay, how many people are pessimistic about AI? That's okay. This is a safe space. It's perfectly okay. Okay, so how many people think the singularity is actually near? Okay, seemed crazy, right? Seemed crazy, but who knows? Okay. So it's definitely an interesting time, right? Interesting time that we're living in. And so now let's dig into this, you know, a little bit, just a little bit deeper. So I want to really talk about three main things today. One is I just want to cover two mindset framing points just to kind of get us on the same page and kind of thinking. And then I want to talk about two directions. I want to talk about how AI, an opportunity for how AI can really catalyze change in education in general and in open AI in particular. So that's like one direction. Then I'm going to talk about the other direction, a real opportunity for the open ed community to catalyze change in AI. Okay, so we're going to talk about both of these. So the first framing point, I'd like to shout out to Angela. Where's Angela? Okay, let's give Angela a round of applause. She's the best. Okay, so let's think about why we're here, right? Are we here because of the stuff that we create, right? Are we here because of OER, this thing, these bytes, these bits? Is that why we're here, right? Or are we here because of our community, right? Because of our shared ethos, because the best practices we're developing, and our goals, right? Equity, democratization, deeper learning, what have you, right? It's worth thinking about that a little bit because thinking about this can help us, I think, navigate this very rocky road that we're going to be going over for the next few years as AI sweeps into education, right? The thing of OER is challenge, no question. We're going to talk more about this. Right? Just all kinds of challenges to AI on the thing OER, right? But on the other hand, right, our community can actually be empowered by AI in order to really accelerate towards what we believe are our community's goals. Okay, so that's point number one. Straw poll, how many of you are authors? Okay, probably a lot of you are authors. Think back when you signed up to the OpenEd community and you put your first Creative Commons license on a piece of content that you developed, right? Did you think about what you signed up for? You probably did. But did you realize that, like, in this AI world, like, what you signed up for, like, doesn't necessarily work anymore? Did you realize that? Okay, we're in a complicated world. Okay, complicated world around, like, intellectual property of what we've developed. Okay, and oops, let me go back. And the reason I know that people care a lot about attribution, how many people here use BY in their license? Okay, everybody. How many people use CC0? Okay, a few. Impressive. Okay, but we'll get cable on the phone, right? The percentage of CC0 licenses, which don't require attribution, to the attribution-based licenses is like 0, right? That's why it's called CC0. Okay, right? So it's just small. People care, but there's an attribution aspect of we give to a community and we expect only a tiny little thing back, right? Some credit, right, for what we did. And so it pisses us off. Right? Who's pissed off, right? Come on. Our stuff's going in the meat grinder, right? Right? And it is what's creating. Wikipedia, open educational materials are two of the main fodders, right? Training data for AI models. Did you realize that? You might not have realized that. Okay, but it's true. Okay, and I think you could be rightfully upset, right? That these companies are taking, right? They're coming to take, right? What is rightfully ours. So this is very, very complicated, right? Because we certainly didn't sign up, right, for this AI world, right? Because it didn't exist, right? It just didn't exist. And thinking about, like, locus of control, this is a very big issue, right? We're one community. This is going to get figured out over the next few years, but it's going to take, like, the Supreme Court to figure out some of these things. Everybody knows about the New York Times lawsuit, right? So, and the Authors Guild suing Microsoft and OpenAI. But yeah, likely we'll go to the Supreme Court. But this is about, right? This is about non-open license content. This is about fair use on copyrighted, fully protected content, right? So this just shows how complicated all this is, okay? Even if this gets figured out, we are stuck, unless one of you has an idea, we are stuck in a kind of an attribution hell, okay? Because OpenAI, Google, these Anthropic, these companies are using billions of documents in their meat grinder to learn their AI models, okay? So what are you going to do, right? Put an attribution at the bottom of every chat GPT, right? Response is like, here's 1 billion documents, right, that were used to train this. So we're basically, there's just this tsunami, right, of attribution that I just have no idea how we're going to figure it out. Maybe we will. But very, very complicated, okay? This is a very timely issue. Creative Commons has actually just come out, right, with a paper on this, and they're talking about being able to signal whether you want your content to be used for training AI or not. However, this still isn't going to fix that if you allow it to be trained, you're never going to get attribution anymore. Kind of sad. Anybody sad? I'm kind of sad. Okay, so this is going to get figured out. Our goals, right, like access, equity, democratization, making education more available. These goals aren't going to change, but there's no question it's time for our community to think carefully about attribution ideas, how we measure impact, right? If some of our content has kind of disappeared into these AI systems. And I just think that there's a tremendous amount for us to discuss here. Okay? Clear to everybody? Okay, so, well, clear as mud. Mindset framing point 2, okay? We're confused, we're conflicted, we're mad, right? We're enthused, right? But like, we're not gonna get the genie back in the bottle. Everybody realizes that? People call for slowing down AI, including all the big names in AI, saying we need to slow down, we need to have regulation, right? Very hard to know if anything along those lines is going to happen, right? So I think that we've got to get kind of pragmatic about this. I'm not saying that we don't try to advocate for all those things, but it's just very, very, just tremendous momentum, right, on the part of these large companies in this space. And I think that we just need to come to grips with the fact, or peace with the fact, that just like the internet, right, starting in about 2000, like swept through education, it's like everywhere in education, the same is going to happen with AI. Right? It's going to sweep through our lives, it's going to be everywhere, it's going to sweep through education, it's going to be everywhere, and this is just kind of a fact, right? It's kind of a fact. Moreover, publishing is going to change. You think attribution is bad. Okay, what about publishing? Okay, in the old days, right, as of 2 years ago, publishing meant you wrote something and then it was served up, right, to a student through digital technology, say, through the internet, World Wide Web, right, publishing. Okay, well, that's going to change, right? AI is going to be the publisher, right? Content is going to be served up by AI, okay? It's going to be transformed. Reader doesn't, this person doesn't want to read chapter 7 of the book. They want the podcast version. It's going to be transformed. It's going to be generated on the fly even, right? And this is going to be a very big change to anyone who authors, not just open people, New York Times, et cetera. So it's going to be really turmoil for the next number of years. So there's a spectrum, right, given all these things, right? We could be on the optimist side. Wow, AI is great, lots of opportunity, accelerate, right, our drive for equity, democratization, learning, okay? But on the other hand, there are pessimistic views, rightfully so. There's significant drawbacks that could send education backwards. And I don't even mean the obvious ones. I mean the unintended consequences. Anybody notice that social media is a problem? Right? It's a problem, right? Totally unintended consequence. So think of that, right, like on steroids, right, with AI. And this is where we get to really what is a place where there's just a tremendous opportunity for our community, and that is we can take a leadership role in this area called responsible AI. Show of hands, responsible AI. Okay, there's a definition at the bottom. You can read it really quickly. Okay, but what is it in a nutshell? It is the productive struggle, right, of the pessimists and the optimists to try to come up with an AI that foundationally is in the best interests of people. Does in fact move, let's say, education forward, right? Tries to minimize the negative consequences. Okay, and this is just an area where I think we can really think very hard about, be advocates for, and join this community of AI researchers that is growing like daily, who are thinking about this. Okay, so this is a great area for us as we move forward. So those are our two framing points. So let's now jump into two opportunities. So the first opportunity is an opportunity using AI to change how we do education, right? Hopefully for the better, or let's just, maybe I should say, hopefully to solve an impending crisis, okay? So we might think that the big threat to education today is AI. How many people think it is? Big threat is AI. Okay, I'd argue there's an even bigger threat. Okay, what's the bigger threat? Okay, the bigger threat is that we're moving into a new crisis. And if you think of one of the key ideas that drove open educational resources, going way back, it was about access. You could call it the access crisis. What are we moving into? Okay, we're moving into an attention crisis. Okay, nobody's reading anymore. Anybody notice this? Anybody have students? Okay, nobody is reading. It's not Johnny can't read, right? Johnny doesn't bother to read. Okay, student study habits have just changed radically. Any educators in this room know, changed radically, and it's all, Nicole's gonna just hate me, keep bringing it up, it's all about time, right? They're pressed for time. They want faster, faster, faster. So here's what happens. Tell me, put up your hand if this happens to you, instructors. Okay, you assign an awesome assignment for the week. Read chapter 7 in the textbook, do this assignment. What do you expect? Kids are going to read the book, they're going to do the assignment. Okay, well that doesn't happen, okay? It goes in the trash. They don't even look at chapter 7. They just take the problems and they type them into Google. Now, I'm not suggesting they're trying to cheat. They're just trying to shortcut, right? They're trying to get to something more efficient because they say, wow, reading the chapter 7, that's going to take like an hour. Maybe I can just figure out how to do these problems in 20 minutes, and then I can move on to my whatever club that I want to join, right? So YouTube is the new place people are learning. It's not like the textbooks that we're creating, right? All kinds of research around this. That I can point to, and students not only don't want to read anymore, but even maybe more scary, like increasingly like can't read. I don't mean they can't read. I mean they can't read for more than like 10 pages, or they like tune out. They can't follow an argument because of why? Social media, of course, right? So you can think of this organized as like a plane. Okay, as a plane. So think of a world where like learning quality, deeper learning, like better learning goes up, right? And then this is a crazy axis. Time saved goes that way. Maybe it should be time and saved would be this way, but time saved goes this way. And so most of us, myself included, are living in the past, right? We go in the upper left, read chapter 7, do my assignment, and we hope, right? Okay, students are not doing that. Right? They're just going right to the bottom right. They're going to YouTube, right? It's very interesting. They are highly motivated to learn. And in fact, they're almost learning like Socratically, right? By problem-based kind of learning. The problem is super fragmented. They're just typing in a physics problem with a quadratic and then try to find a similar problem that also has a quadratic. So they don't actually learn how to solve the problem, they learn how to recognize problems. So they're learning really interesting skills, but not necessarily the skills that you would want if you're, say, teaching physics. Okay, and instructors, this is the reality, right? I mean, there's been kind of nothing that we can do about it, right? We're bothered, we want a solution, but we just don't know what to do. So what we're thinking about at OpenStack, something we call AmazeEd, is can we use AI, right, to like go up, right? Save students the same amount of time. So instead of spending 3 hours on their homework, they're actually maybe only spending an hour and a half, or at least they think they're saving time, right? With ideas that are really end goal focused, that are really where the learning materials have all been transformed so that they all relate in a very obvious way to the thing the students care about, which is the homework and which is their grade. Okay, also very engaging, very multimedia, and then with the instructor voice, right? So that it's not Sal Khan teaching your course, right? But it's actually you teaching your course. Okay, so this is something we're thinking about, again, if people are playing with like Notebook LM a lot of these ideas are actually being built here. Do people remember Google Socratic from way back? This was the tool. This is precisely why they started developing Google Socratic, because Google started to notice years ago how many search queries, especially late at night, were homework problems. Okay, and so this is just the natural outcome from here. You cannot do this with people, right? You cannot scale up people to do this kind of real-time, on-the-fly, multimedia generation based on a particular homework that you just assigned. The only way this can be done is by technology. Okay? I don't know any other way to meet students where they are with these new study habits other than using technology. Okay, so that's something we can talk about, but I think that this is a real opportunity for AI. Okay, real opportunity. However, this is the place where we could talk a little bit about like some of the issues of real-time and AI, and that is hallucination. Everybody knows hallucination is AI gets things wrong, right? They're probabilistic machines. They make random mistakes, especially if it's in a corner area where they don't have enough evidence, either through like the context you give the model or through like training data, okay? Interestingly though, people never hallucinate, correct? People never. Okay, what is this? What's this picture? Circles or spirals? What do you see? How many see spirals? Okay, those are concentric circles. Okay, I can send you the link. Totally crazy. It's exactly the same kind of hallucination idea, okay? That said, okay, there are all kinds of places where we think humans might be less fallible than AI bots, but there are also places where AI bots actually seem to be able to shine. Okay, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Hallucination, I just realized I got off the train of thought. Just talking about this hallucination, this can cause bots to spew nonsense, and this is a famous paper in the space of AI analysis, basically comparing the outputs of AI models to basically a person who you meet at a bar who's really good at like BSing. Okay, the key is at the very bottom, right? The key thing is that these models spew nonsense, but they have absolutely no idea. They're indifferent to the fact that they're spewing nonsense. Okay, so I talked about hallucination. There's different approaches that we could try to attack hallucinations. One is offline, right? If you're going to use AI to generate content, then you can actually put in a peer review process. We know about quality control processes, right? And BC Campus has a really great process by which you can, round of applause, BC Campus. Yes, by which you can carefully go through a process to carefully vet content that's been developed by some AI engine and then be able to actually publish it and, as we'll talk about in a minute, even put an open license on it. The problem with all of this, though, is that that should say online. Once we move to online real-time content, peer review kind of goes out the window, right? Goes out the window. And so we as a community need to think about like new ways to think about grounding AI models in trustworthy content, right? So that there's kind of guardrails on where the AI system can go, okay? And this is just one example of collaboration that we have at OpenStax with Google Gemini to try to do exactly that, and then link back, right, and attribute the actual knowledge module where this idea was actually found. Okay? But I must say that this is an area of, right, still really active research. Okay? And I think that this is another place where people from our community could get involved, which is thinking about sort of online systems, real-time systems for quality evaluation of all kinds of different AI-generated content. Okay, moreover, we've been talking about assessment-driven learning. Students are just typing the assessment into Google. Well, that, it should occur to us, okay, we got to rethink, right? We have to rethink how we do assessment. Anybody thought of this, right? We got to think, about how we redo assessment, right? Not only to try to drive students away from just putting the problem into Google, but also because unfortunately some students are going to be tempted, right? They're going to be tempted to actually type the problem into ChatGPT and submit, right? Submit an answer, right? So the AI shortcuts are just too tempting. Tremendous amount of work to be done. And again, the really neat thing is that AI could be very, very useful here for giving us new ways and means to like track student learning, and measure student progress in real time, so that maybe we can even kind of just get rid of the idea of like the weekly assignment, the quiz, the exam, because we can just follow students in their learning the entire trajectory and then just be able to assign them a thumbs up at the end of the course. Okay, lots of things that our community can think about here, and I think for the folks here who do open pedagogy, show of hands, lots of show of hands. Okay, they're all at the back. Interesting. Open pedagogy people are all at the back. Just lots of opportunities here to think about how the ideas you're developing could be both built into next generation, like AI education systems, or AI could be used to help. Okay, last point, and this is the other direction. How can openness actually catalyze change in AI? And I think there's just a real big opportunity here, again, for our community. Okay, we have seen the rise over the last, decades. Open community-based ethos applied to software, applied to learning content, applied to teaching ideas, and so why not to AI systems? Okay, why can't we build open AI systems? What a great name. Okay, not that open AI. Okay, what a joke. Okay, OpenAI, if you didn't know, they're changing into a fully for-profit company. Okay, so they have the best name in the world. People talk about open washing, right? This is like a pre-open wash kind of thing. Okay, preemptive opening. Okay, so I'm going to talk about like what can we do around AI that's truly open, that's not exploitive, that is really by and of the people, right? We have an election coming up, right, in the US. Okay, so what are the ingredients? Let's talk about what would be the ingredients of a truly open AI. Okay, let's remember back to our AI system, right? Knobs, box, training data, prompts, outputs, right? All this stuff. Okay, so what would be the ingredients? First is the model, right? The deep neural network itself, the architecture, what happens when you turn the knobs. Okay, Google's AI models, OpenAI's, the other OpenAI's, okay, they are proprietary, closed black box, can't see inside, okay? But there's a movement, right, around developing open models, open source-like models, one of them being Llama from Meta. Okay, show of hands, you heard of Llama? I would call it a semi-open model. Okay, it has an open architecture. You can actually look at the spec, right, how everything fits together. It has open parameters. They actually tell you the knobs, right? What were the settings of all the knobs? Okay, this is great, but that's not everything because they never said how they got the knobs. They're not going to tell you that. Okay, but there are organizations working on that. Here's a great one. Everybody should look up Together AI from our good friend Chris Ray and others. Okay, Together AI really believes in not only going to this next level and having truly open models that also have fully open training procedures. So you can know absolutely everything there is to know about the model. Okay, so this is great. They're really trying to take kind of this Red Hat ethos, if you will, Linux-type ethos to AI models. So this is something that the tech community is kind of taking care of. That's good, right? That's good, okay? What is that going to give us? Well, if we can have truly open architectures, we have transparency because you can look, right? You can look inside this box. Why did it make that decision? You can actually figure that out. You have accountability, right? You can build trust, and very important, you can have an open source community. You can take some Together Model 17, and you can like remix it with some other model to create an even better model. That's how open source should work. Okay, so that's, the tech people are handling that. Okay? But they're not handling the training data. Okay, and this area is a mess. Remember the meat grinder? Okay, it's a total mess. Okay, because remember what these big models are trained on, even Llama 3 from Meta. It's an open model, but it was trained on just everything they could find from the internet, including all of our stuff, all of Wikipedia, all of a whole bunch of other stuff. And so there's just a tremendous opportunity for us to conduct what you call in the tech world a hero experiment. Okay? Can we come together and build an open AI model that's actually trained on our data, our content, on OER, on public domain data, on volunteered content that maybe folks don't want to make fully CC open, but they might volunteer it to use it for training of this particular model. Okay, this would be very exciting because we would truly have a model, again, that would be by the people, for the people. Okay, there are some challenges, right? There are technical challenges. Remember, GPT-4 was trained on about 13 trillion words. We could get Cable on the phone again. I don't think he'd tell you there's that 13 trillion words in all the OER and Wikipedia docs out there, right? So there's a challenge of maybe not enough data that might kind of scare us. Okay, it might scare us. However, there's this movement in the tech world of actually not making models bigger, but actually smaller, more focused, more organized, building in know-how that you don't have to learn from training data, okay? And selecting the right kind of training data. This is a beautiful paper. Okay, look at the title of the paper at the bottom. Okay, what is the best data for training an AI model? Textbook. That's our stuff. Okay, so there's actually really a hope that we could actually train a model for us, right? That is based on the kind of pedagogical content, or the kind of textbook learning type content that we develop. It gets even better. Okay? What is even better than a textbook? What's the single most useful thing in a textbook for training an AI model? Any guess? Problems and solutions. Why? Logical thinking. Okay, so look at this chart on the right. Better model, higher up. Okay, what this paper actually showed is that as you train a model using not just like baseline data, Shakespeare, right? But then use like textbook, descriptive textbook content, but even better, pedagogical, like solve a problem. Here are the steps to solve the problem. The model gets better like rapidly. Okay, so there's real hope that we could actually make real inroads in building, a truly open model for us, by us. Okay, keep going. There's so many things to keep talking about. Prompts. Anybody here ever used an AI model? ChatGPT. What do you type in? The prompt. Okay? Okay? If you think about 99% of the ed tech companies out there that do AI, guess what they do? They just write prompts. You might not know that. That's all they do. There's a whole area now called prompt engineering. Okay, that you can get a degree in pretty soon. Okay, prompts are hard work. Okay, we should be opening these prompts. We should be open licensing our prompts. Right? If we open license our prompts, they can be built on by a community. Right? It's the open pedagogical thing to do. And really interestingly, if you open your prompt and you have a prompt and the model gets better, actually the output will actually get better. So we can actually bootstrap our way to better and better outputs and inputs to AI systems over time. Okay, and there's some really interesting things. Affordable Learning Georgia, anybody here? Yay. Some really interesting guidelines from them on opening prompts. Okay, and then of course, finally, the output should be licensed. Did you know this? An AI engine is not a person, so the output is not copyright. So if you look at it, verify that it is correct, that your proud of this piece of content, you can actually make it an OER and put a CC license on it. You might not have known that, but this is the other thing that we really need to be doing, is open licensing our outputs. Okay? So again, lots to do. I think this is a really exciting area, and really this could be the engine that we need for responsible AI development, not just in our community, but in the AI community at large. So it's about time to get going on this. We're still in attribution hell. I don't know who's going to come up with this idea. There's still training cost, right? There's still inference cost, sustainability issues. I could talk about that after. But still, I think that these actually, at the bottom two, are actually issues that the tech world is going to be solving over the next little while. Okay, so let's wrap up. Hopefully you took away something. Hopefully we're on a level playing field as far as who we are, why we're here, what we're going to do as AI sweeps through the world. We've talked about attacking this access crisis. We've talked about the huge opportunity for creating a truly open AI system. AI is going to be everywhere. Publishing is going to change. Student study habits are changing because of this. We have to rethink how we assess. But I think there's just huge opportunities, not only to take leadership in this responsible AI world, but also to really open a new axis, right? We've had open content, we have had open pedagogy, and really I think the third frontier that the open world really should be taking on is this idea of open AI tools. It's about time, let's do it, and thank you so much for listening.
Time for just a couple of questions.
And I will hang around after.
Our first one is coming in from our online attendees. How have technological advancements changed? What kind of skills and thinking are valuable?
Yeah, so this is a very important, so the question is, how has all of this onrushing technology changed the skills that students need to have and the public needs to have? So I would argue that this is a space where our community can really make a lot of progress on, organizing some of these ideas, but some of the key ones. Critical thinking skills are more important than ever. Integration skills are more important forever, and also the ability to learn and teach yourself, because the world is going to be a constantly evolving place, and people are going to be needing to constantly retool as new technologies are developed and flow through the world. Hopefully that makes sense. Back to Nicole.
All right. I'm afraid that is all the time we have.
Thank you.
Big hand. And please stay for brief announcements.